Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Samantha Havisser. I'm on the Bankers Without Borders team of Grameen Foundation, and I run the fellowship program, and I'll be today's facilitator. So just by way of a little bit of introduction, the fellowship program through Grameen Foundation is a unique opportunity for professionals from a wide range of industries to gain experience supporting projects serving the poor and working with the brightest minds in innovation. It's a competitive year-long placements with Grameen Foundation and other social enterprises, although predominantly with Grameen Foundation. And fellows receive living stipends as well as group orientation and professional development support throughout their placements. So on today's call, this is the second of three Meet the Fellows series. We'll be speaking with 5 of our fellows who are in the field right now and really taking questions that some of you had submitted beforehand to get a deeper sense of what it is that they've been experiencing, how they see the placement working into their personal, professional lives and goals, and really getting some of their hands-on experience. The first round applications are due on March the 1st, so those of you hopefully who are watching this will then be inspired to go out there and fill in your applications. And then before we kind of dive in and start meeting the fellows, I just wanted to do a quick housekeeping item, which is those of you who are watching us through YouTube, if you'd like to submit questions live, there should be a little link at the bottom. It's like a little yellow sign that says Join Google Hangout Live or On Air. And if you click on that, and if you have a Google account, it'll pop up in a different window. And then you'll be able to submit questions live during the session as well. Because we have a lot of fellows on the call today and quite a few questions to get started, we'll try to get to the ones that are submitted live as well, but we'll kind of focus on the ones that were pre-submitted. So that's going to be kind of our goal for today. So we'll start with everyone introducing themselves on the fellow side, and then we'll dive into some of the questions. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and for those of you watching this recording later on as well. We hope you enjoy the session. So we'll start with Carol and just kind of move down the line. If you want to introduce yourself, a little bit about your placement, and maybe a little bit about where you come from. Carol, can you hear me?
Sorry, I think I lost that last piece, but anyway, hello, my name is Carol Jung, and I'm currently a fellow placed within Uganda. I'm originally from Michigan, but I moved here from New York City where I was doing management consulting. Currently, I'm a mobile financial services fellow in Uganda working on a couple of our mobile apps here, and it's been a really great time so far.
Fantastic. Catherine?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Catherine Tan. I am also originally from Michigan. For the fellowship, my background was in a hedge fund in an operational chief of staff about 4 years. And then, I was always interested to make the leap into Grameen. And I come in Washington, D.C. with our COO and our CTO as a tech strategy and business operations fellow. And I'm working on basically looking at some of the overarching business processes that help make Grameen Foundation tick and working to use technology to improve those. And then for the second part of my fellowship, I will likely also be in the field, possibly in Uganda. And so, it's been a great experience so far.
Thanks, Catherine. Lisa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Way, and I'm the mHealth Strategy Fellow based in Accra, Ghana. I was born in China and grew up in the UK and Canada before moving to the US for college. I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania and then started a career in management consulting, specializing in mergers and acquisitions and business development. But after working in New York and Silicon Valley for about 5 years or so, I took a sabbatical, did some volunteering in Kenya where I was helping to pilot a student loan program. And in Nairobi, I met some of the Grameen Foundation folks there, including Jason and Howard, the fellows there last year. And I really believed in what Grameen Foundation was doing in the world, and I decided to apply for the fellowship myself with the goal of transitioning from my private sector career. So I made the leap and I moved to Ghana last August. And in Ghana, we focus mainly on mHealth, which means delivering health information via the mobile phone. And we just started mobile ag here about 4 months ago. My fellowship role is to help with developing sustainability strategies for our mHealth programs because we're reliant on donor funding, but we want to diversify from that and think of ways to commercialize some of our products. Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa. We'll actually skip Patrizia because she's having a few technical issues right now. So hopefully we'll be able to get that fixed and come back to her. So Rowan, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. My name is Rowan Emsley. I grew up in London, but I was living in Berlin before I came here. I'm the Marketing Outreach and Thought Leadership Fellow for TaroWorks. And TaroWorks is a part of Grameen. It's an app that collects data in rural areas. So yeah, I'm here rejigging the website, doing design, coming up with marketing strategies. It's out here in Nairobi, and it's been really great so far.
Fantastic. So Patrizia is still having some issues. For those of you watching and considering fellowships with the Grameen Foundation or I think any development organization, technical issues are a part of our lives, so I know everyone on this call is certainly used to them. So Patrizia is going to try to rejoin, but just by way of a little introduction, she's originally from Italy. She's actually working with our joint venture in Dubai, Grameen-Jameel, and helping with a strategy to implement programs through microfinance institutions that help youth unemployment, so help combat youth unemployment by working with MFIs in the Middle East and across the Middle East. Patrizia, are you able to hear us now? Are you able to? Let's see. Okay. So we'll get back, hopefully Patrizia's connection will be able to get fixed and we'll be able to get back to her. But we'll go ahead and just jump right into some of the questions that have already been submitted. And for some of these, we'll just kind of go down the line, which might be the easiest way. Maybe we'll mix up the order a little bit so it doesn't get too redundant, but that seems to be the easiest kind of way to get through all these questions since we have a pretty big group today. So the first question that was submitted by one of our viewers was, what specific responsibilities, duties, tasks do you perform as a fellow, and how could you describe your average work week? So some of you have kind of talked about high level about your jobs or your placements here. So talk a little bit more about some of the nitty gritty that you do as part of your placements. So we'll start again with Carol. Carol, are you there? Carol might be having technical issues as well. Let's go ahead and jump over to Katherine then while Carol's trying to figure out her connection.
Experience might be a little bit sales, and at least at the moment, I'm currently based at GF's headquarters, which is in DC. And so, you know, I think there's sort of pros and cons. On the one hand, I think when you're in the field, you have the opportunity to be closer to the programs, which is something that I do want to experience in my fellowship. I think I get probably like a more overarching and some of the team higher program can business.
Sorry, Katherine, your connection is also a bit patchy. Let's see. Lisa, do you want to go ahead and take over? Then we'll get back to Katherine in a second when her connection is a little bit stronger,
Sure.
hopefully.
Okay, so I don't really have an average work day or a work week, and I worked on several projects at once here. So last fall when I first started, I was very involved on the programmatic and implementation side for one of our youth projects. So sending SMS and voice messages to youth to educate them about sexual reproductive health. And so I would have weekly meetings with the tech team who's responsible for actually sending out these messages to our users. And I would go over with them what tech issues we have, how to resolve them, set deadlines, write out product specs for some of the dashboard items that we needed. I also do some, I've been assigned to do a landscaping exercise of the mobile financial services and financial inclusion space in Ghana, and so I'm doing some secondary research online, creating some PowerPoint slides to share the findings, and finding industry experts and other players in the market to interview them about their experience in Ghana. My week also includes a lot of meetings with the implementation staff here and the country director and our partners to brainstorm sustainability ideas for our products. And then I make PowerPoint presentations capturing our ideas and fleshing them out about how to execute on them and pros and cons and challenges. My work has also involved analyzing some of our airtime costing data for one of our projects targeting pregnant women and new mothers, identifying trends and problems with our airtime costs. And then throughout the few months, there's also been a lot of ad hoc tasks like giving feedback on marketing brochures, writing product specs on this new content management system that we're trying to build here in Ghana. So it's a very wide array of responsibilities on a weekly basis.
Fantastic. Carol, do you want to go back to you? Can you hear us now? Oh. Carol may not be able to hear us. Rowan, do you want to go ahead and go?
On the same question or the next one?
Same question.
Oh, okay. So my average work day. Well, generally I have a weekly meeting with my supervisor, and we sort of set out all the things that I need to do. And they mostly involve, at the moment, just working on the website, developing different design options for them to review. I also am in charge of all the outreach, so I will send emails if they need to be sent to our customers or to our sort of wider audience, and track metrics about web visitors and the like. So I mean that's what I would do on any average day, but there's always always things coming up, an event we have to promote, or some new information we got, or maybe we have some new clients that we need to know more about. So it's not like a 9 to 5 clock in clock out kind of thing.
Fantastic. So we're still trying to get the technical issues sorted on Patrizia, Katherine, and Carol. So hopefully those will be sorted in a second. But I think for those of you who are watching, I think one of the themes that we really want to get across with this question is a lot of people who are applying to the fellowship, sometimes people have different images, mental models of what a fellowship looks like. Are you going to be, in the field all day talking to clients? What is your role within the organization? I think what we're hearing is that a lot of the placements really are playing a critical role within a team that's then doing a larger project. So it is that you're, going into an office and checking emails. So sometimes that isn't quite the, Indiana Jones adventure that everyone expects, but it is a great opportunity to really be, exposed to what development work really looks like, and what it really is to be on one of these teams and to be part of this greater mission that doesn't always necessarily have quite the glamour of some TV shows. So that's something, as the person who manages the program, that's always the message that we like to get across to those who are applying, that this is a different kind of setup, that this isn't the Peace Corps, and that we're really looking at bringing on those skilled professionals. So Patrizia, I think your mic is working now, so do you want to go ahead and talk, to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what your role is? Patrizia, let's see, oh, there we go. So we can see you. Let's see if we can hear you. Nope. Nope. Again, a sneak preview as to the normal work lives of all of us here at Grameen Foundation. You see,
Yeah.
I get nods on both sides.
I was going to say, this is like every meeting.
This is the real Meet the Fellows. This is Meet the Fellows how we live. But he said keep working on it. Maybe on your settings. I'm not sure if your microphone is just not attached to it. Carol, are you back yet? Because we've seen you've been frozen for a little bit, so we don't know if your audio is working or your mic is working.
I think her screen or Hangout is frozen.
Yeah. Okay. So Carol, I know Catherine just dropped off to try to reconnect, and then hopefully Carol will as well. So from 5 Meet the Fellows, we'll have an intimate two Meet the Fellows for a little bit here. So Lisa, Rowan, get ready to carry the team here. So one of the next question talks, a little bit more about kind of what you brought to the table versus what it is that what your placement really looks like. So how much of your duties and responsibilities were predetermined before you went to the field and before you really start to get immersed, and how of them kind of came up while you were, oh, there you go, Catherine's back. Oh, Catherine, we can hear you. Catherine? The joys of live streaming. Catherine, we can hear you just in case you're there, so sounds like your connection is back. So she may not be able to hear us. Okay. You mute Catherine.
Sounds like she's underwater.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a critical part of the fellowship program. We have some underwater aquatics that we do during our calls as well. It's just a natural part of our day. So back to the next question. So the next question we have is, how much do your duties and responsibilities were predetermined before the field placement, and how much emerged and evolved in your role during the fellowship placement? So did your experience kind of match what you expected, basically, when you signed up for this, and how did your role kind of evolve while you're in the field? So Lisa, you want to go first?
Sure. So my responsibilities have definitely evolved a lot throughout the fellowship. Before I started, I was told that I'd be working on more research and strategy tasks, ability strategies, as I mentioned before. But I was also aware that one of our full-time staff members is going back to the States. And so that particular team, the youth project I mentioned before, would need a lot of help. And so I ended up having a lot more operational experience in the 3 or 4 months of my fellowship, which wasn't really what I was expecting, but it ended up being a really good coincidence because I'd never gotten that sort of programmatic experience before, since my background was more in strategy and research and PowerPoint slides and things like that. And so being able to, work with the tech team and figure out how we should recruit more users, or liaising with the partners to figure out how our efforts can be aligned with theirs. I really got to learn firsthand what the difficulties were in doing on-the-ground implementation work. And so now, since the holidays ended, coming back, now my work has been a little bit more what I expected to do, which was landscaping exercises and research, and I've gotten to learn a lot through that as well. I have been able to get a few opportunities to go out into the field, although I would say 90% of my time is definitely spent in the office. I've found opportunities to go out We have several mHealth programs going on here, and they do a lot of field testing of our products. There's some of our teams to meet the end users and we get some good feedback for our products to make improvements on, and it's really rewarding.
Fantastic. And I think Patricia's mic might be working. Patricia, do you want to give this a go?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you. Fantastic. So now you have introduction, what your job looks, what your placement looks like, and what kind of skills you bring on board. Go ahead.
I will speak for half an hour now. So my name is Patrizia. I am from Italy and I work in Grameen-Jameel. I'm doing my fellowship in Grameen-Jameel Microfinance, which is a joint venture between Grameen Foundation and Abdullah Latif Jameel Initiatives. Grameen-Jameel office is based in Dubai. Provide financing and technical assistance to all the countries in Middle East and North Africa. Not all, but 11 countries in Middle East and North Africa. My role is to develop a new strategy for youth financial inclusion in the region. So basically, what is my responsibilities? First, I was doing a landscape analysis on different experience in the region and also in other countries about youth program, entrepreneurship program, and specific youth products developed by microfinance institution. And then we identified a project idea to develop in some countries, to pilot in 2-3 countries in the Middle East. The idea of the project is like to develop, strengthen the connection between the MFIs and the different program graduating young people for entrepreneurship skills or vocational training. And basically, my work day is like to look for donors, to try to develop new partnership with this organization and MFIs working for youth, and to develop new credit products, specific credit products. So do a market analysis on youth needs and specific products for youth. For the other question was about the expectation. What I expected from this fellowship was to gain, get better understanding of microfinance in another region, because I worked before in microfinance, but in the Balkans. So to this regard, I think my expectation is made, because I have the opportunity to see different kind of projects and experience all around Middle East and North Africa. Also to see a new approach, because before I was working with NGOs, and now I work within a social business, and I see how you develop service like consultancy to MFIs. Also, I have the opportunity to see other products like microinsurance. Before I didn't work on it. Yeah, and then I can speak more. But yeah, well, maybe an expectation that this was not so fulfilled was about working in the field, because till now, since we have our office in Dubai and all the MFIs are in other countries, we work mainly like meeting on Skype with the other organization, but till now I didn't work directly in the field with clients.
Fantastic. Thank you, Patricia. And then we should have Carol back now as well. So Carol, do you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about your duties and responsibilities, and maybe even weave it into how those have evolved since you started the fellowship, and what those and how they kind of match to your expectations when you joined us?
Sure. Earlier I was trying to say that I'm in charge of the business aspect of a lot of our partnership work with Barclays, mainly regarding 2 different applications. One is LedgerLink, which is basically a digitalized ledger for savings groups. and the second is eKeys, which is basically a mobile wallet. So my main responsibilities are in charge of things like business modeling, financial models, process mapping, doing any type of competitive analysis in the landscape, meeting with various partners to help mitigate issues and make sure that the products are able to roll forward successfully, and preparing for any kind of meetings we have. So this past week we had a really big workshop in which like the Barclays head of Africa came. And so doing kind of those things, preparing those kind of presentations. In terms of whether I thought it would be different from what I originally thought, one thing is that I did not anticipate how much the role would kind of deviate, because a lot of this is in the pilot phase, so there are various factors that just pop up on any given day, which kind of halt the project or deviate some of the timelines. So that's definitely one thing that I wasn't expecting. And the second is that I was originally told that I would be helping to support kind of the implementation rollout of 2 products, but then also help to design 2 other products. But because of our timelines, they've kind of lengthened. So I mostly will be focusing on those original first 2 products.
Fantastic. Back to Rowan. So Rowan, how's your role kind of match your expectations or evolve since you've been in Nairobi?
So for me, I met with my supervisor at the start, and basically we just came up with a work plan together. So my role has pretty much been exactly as I thought it would be because I planned it. But that is maybe because I'm with TaroWorks, which is like a startup within Grameen, and startups are much more, they have a culture of like, oh, you know about this thing, go and do that. So there's a lot of like autonomy in that way. It's just, what do you think? Yep, do that. And that's great. For me, I really enjoy that. But maybe I wasn't entirely expecting it to be so like self-determined. But that was a very pleasant surprise, personally.
Fantastic. And we actually have several TaroWorks placements for the coming year. So for those who like to create their own work plans, I would definitely emphasize TaroWorks in your application. But I think I don't think it's isolated to TaroWorks. I've seen a lot of, I get the original request in from teams, and I get to check in with fellows throughout the year, and this is a common theme. And I think that's an important thing for those who are interested in applying to keep in mind, which is, you're bringing certain talents to an organization. Therefore, your role can be kind of predetermined in one way and talk about the areas that people want you to work in. But as you've seen from all of our panelists today and from other sessions, your role evolves with kind of what you bring to the table and what you're able to get involved in and produce, and then you can kind of grow that as a professional experience within Grameen and with other social enterprises that we work with. So I personally think that's the strength of the program, but that's something to kind of emphasize because it is a different kind of personality type. If you're expecting that you'll have your full work plan in place on your first day and you'll be only hitting those targets, there might be other placements that are a better fit for your personality. So the next question kind of seems linked to that a bit, which is how much space for creativity and innovation was given to you as part of the fellowship and kind of the working environment. So I think some of you have touched on this, so it might be a quicker question, but how do you feel about your creativity, innovation, and maybe even your own ability to personally influence the work that's going on, either within your team or within the organization more broadly? So we can start with Carol again and move down.
Sure. So I would say the answer to my question is that it all completely depends on your role. So for me, I'm really a fixed member of the team, so I'm like the commercial analyst piece. So because of that, I work very closely with the project manager, and basically we kind of have a small startup within itself. So usually I will work with the project manager or the director to make any kind of team decisions. But at the same time, on any kind of huge issues when they come up, or for example, which direction I want to go on a certain piece of work that I'm owning, like the competitive analysis or country strategy or something like that, I can kind of offer my ideas and then we can work from there.
Fantastic. Lisa?
So the Ghana office, I think, is a little bit smaller compared to Uganda and Kenya. In our office, I report directly to the country director. And so because we're a little bit understaffed here, I've sort of had the opportunity to help out with many different projects and take initiative to influence things like Sammy said. So for, as an example, one of our sustainability strategies looked at how we could possibly share our SMS and voice content that we develop for youth, for pregnant women and new mothers. How can we share that with outside entities? But to be able to do that, we need to organize our data very well and be able to look at access with outside parties that we can complete that access. So I just sat down and started writing out some product specs of what I'd like to see this content management system look like. And I'm working with the director of technology innovation, who's a developer to actually code that. And it was something that he had identified that we needed, but no one in the office had time to actually write down what that would look like, what are the requirements, how we might share that with outside parties. And so I sort of just took that on, and we're working on that now.
Fantastic. And Catherine, you've rejoined us. I'll let you know what the question is on the docket. So the question is, how much space for creativity and innovation was given to you as part of the fellowship kind of working environment? So we'll do Patrizia, Rowan, and then we'll come back to you with that one. So go ahead, Patrizia. Patrizia? Okay, Rowan it is then.
Okay, so my role is actually very focused on creativity. So I'm often asked to generate lots and lots of ideas that I sort of throw at our CEO and my supervisor, and then they see which one they like the most. So I do a lot of idea generation. For instance, last month I was writing the mission and vision statements for TaroWorks and coming up with a slogan, which just involved tons and tons of tiny sentences that I submitted, to the powers that be until one of them stuck, basically. So it's for me, it's an extremely creative position. I also do a lot of actual design work, like graphic design work as well. So it's actually much more creative than I thought it would be. Again, another pleasant surprise.
Fantastic. And Catherine?
Yeah, I would say that there was a great deal amount of flexibility for me, not just in terms of the day-to-day execution of my role, but coming in and actually working with my supervisors to help define what my project would even be. And I imagine this might differ from role to role, but when I came in, basically my job, my mission was pretty broad, and I think they had some idea of what they wanted to do, but basically my goal was to help improve the business processes that support Grameen's programs via technology. And the CTO and the COO, who I both work with, they had some broad idea of what that might entail, but the project was still in its very early defining stages. So one of the first things that I came in and did was sort of understand the landscape of mapping out what are the different processes that affect Grameen. And then from there, I basically worked with them to come up with a proposal for my role and what I'd focus on. And then building off of that, I would say in terms of the day-to-day work I do that are more analytical and less creative, but I think there's still, what I like about my job is that it's very much still tied to the broader strategy of Grameen. So, for example, one of the things that I'm helping to do is build a Salesforce.com based project management system for us to capture all the data related to our projects in a good way. And on face, that might not sound like the sexiest thing, but there's actually conceptual decisions that go into how do you create a system in the way that maps well to the overall strategy and how Grameen thinks at a high level about the entire life cycle of our programs. And so there, I'm not a technical person at all, but I've been working with pretty technical problems and issues, and I think that in itself has stretched my way of thinking as well.
Fantastic, Catherine. Patrizia, I think I saw you move, so I think you might be back. So let's see. Nope, it's a lucky guess. So we'll keep moving forward then. So the next question is, how did your previous experience help you to perform in your fellowship? So you could talk a little bit about your previous jobs or work, volunteer experience, anything you kind of brought to the table that then really you feel helped you to make this fellowship, worth it. To what skills did you bring forth to the organization? So go ahead, Carol.
Sure. Like I mentioned earlier, I was doing management consulting in New York, so I had done that for 2 years, and I think it really did directly correlate to a lot of the skills that I've been using here and been developing. So I would say the number one most important skill in my job is like stakeholder management, just because we have a lot of different partners that we have to work with very different incentives, very different agendas, different ways of operating. So sometimes you really have to navigate some of those conflicts and be very proactive in the way you do that. And then in addition, obviously, I have the main consulting skills, which are like financial modeling, being able to understand processes, being able to create decks. And then finally, like I was saying, this past week, I was in charge of presenting a lot of my work. So the presenting skills really helped as well.
Okay. Catherine?
Yeah, I would say that my prior experience helped tremendously. So as I mentioned, prior to this, I was in sort of a chief of staff role at a hedge fund for 4 years, and it was very sort of jack of all trades, but a lot of what I was focused on was around change management and process improvement on the operational side of things. But there was also, a big component to my job that was communicating with senior executives and senior leadership, and as Carol mentioned, stakeholder management, and also just general sort of like project management and almost like basic business knowledge and skills. And I would say that all of those things have come in handy in this role. One, since I'm working directly with, pretty senior busy guys within the organization, I think my prior experience of how to do that has really helped. And I would say that what I found that's interesting is that when you look at operational or process-related problems, even though Grameen looks very different on paper than my prior employer, when you get down to the root of where the problems lie, there's a lot of similarities across different organizations. And if you are able to identify those similarities and apply a common analytical framework, so is it the people? Is it that the processes are ill-defined? Is it that the technology isn't there to support it? I think that I actually saw a lot of similarities with some of the problems that were existent in my prior organization, which I thought, was really cool.
Fantastic. Lisa?
I don't want to repeat too much of what Carol and Catherine said, since I also come from a management consulting background. I think just overall being able to think strategically about problem solving and doing Excel analysis and synthesizing a lot of complex information and distilling it into really pretty PowerPoint slides. I think being a consultant also taught me how to get up to speed on a new market or industry really quickly, because I don't have a background in public health, but that's pretty much all we do here in Ghana. And then also my previous fellowship that I did in Kenya, where I was helping to pilot a student loan program, I thought that really helped me in terms of adjusting to life and business culture in Africa and not be as culturally shocked as I was when I read in Ghana. although Kenya and Ghana are very different.
Go ahead, Rowan. You can talk from the Kenya side then.
Yeah, well, I don't know about Ghana, but I'd worked in Kenya and Uganda before, so I was pretty comfortable with being in East Africa. Um, my my role is a bit different from these guys, so I guess that's why I have a somewhat different profile. I'm not a management consultant type person. I came from journalism and communications for NGOs and other organizations like that. So doing a lot of writing, a lot of communicating, a lot of talking to the public, outreach, which is it's not exactly what I've been doing here, but it's all part of the plan for what I'm going to do here. But thinking about how you craft messages and how you talk, how you want it to be perceived by the public was pretty important, and that goes into everything I do, I think.
Into making teeny tiny sentences to submit higher up.
Yeah, yeah, because they have to explain everything.
Patrizia, I think you dropped back and are back now with a bit of echo. Can you hear us? Can you, if you can, do you want to talk about how your previous experience? Excellent. Do you want to talk about how your previous experience then, what you brought to your fellowship?
Okay. I think my previous experience in microfinance and developing a product, although it was for rural microfinance, it was really useful. And also my previous experience within the NGO sector helped me like to develop specific skill to how to deal with different partners. So I think this was really useful, and also all the research skill I developed before. What was the other question? Because I'm missing part of it. So.
The previous one was about creativity and innovation. So how much space for creativity and innovation do you bring as part of your, that's part of the fellowship working environment that you're in?
Okay. Okay. Let's say that since the youth project was not designed yet, this opened a lot of space to creativity, because basically we are designing the project and the product now, so this was interesting. Maybe some limit to creativity is about the relationship with the partners, because some of them, they are like in a sensible stage, let's say, and so you are not always so autonomous in developing the contact with partners, and yeah.
I think that was probably the most diplomatic answer. You have creativity, and then you have people who are in a sensible stage, and therefore sometimes creativity and innovation can be can be more complicated than one would hope. Fantastic. So we'll shift gears a little bit. There's this interesting question that had come up that one of the viewers had submitted, just about safety and kind of how you feel within those communities. And I think a lot of people who are applying to this program, they're probably usually based in either the UK or the US or Europe more broadly, and therefore they're not necessarily used to, you know, what is life like in Nairobi, in Kampala, even in Dubai, and even in Accra. So the specific question was about kind of safety. So how safe do you feel within the communities that you're working? So how do you feel about, you know, the cities that you're in? But I think you can expand on that a little bit more. So how has it been your experience kind of coming into a new city? For some of you, not that new, but how has it been kind of transitioning into working in the field, essentially, even though it's not necessarily the field the way some people may have imagined it? So talk about just kind of your cultural transition then, and how you feel within the communities that you're currently based. So go ahead, Carol.
Sure. I'll touch on the safety aspect first. So first of all, I want to really put it out there. I've never been in sub-Saharan Africa before. So I'm probably one of the few fellows who have never really had experience living here or even visiting. So for me, Uganda was a very new kind of experience in every sense. And I was very pleasantly surprised by how safe I actually feel here. I haven't really heard of any people being threatened with their life. The one thing is that in Uganda, we ride these motorcycle taxis called boda bodas. And those could be a little bit more dangerous. So just be careful and wear a helmet, and then usually it's pretty fine. In terms of adjusting in general, I find that it's pretty easy. The expat community is really friendly here. Everyone's really welcoming. There's a lot to do, and what I personally love is that there's tons of stuff to do outdoors. I'm a runner, so I've been like, I ran the Uganda half marathon. I love going hiking and getting friends together to do spinning classes on Tuesdays. It's great. I really like the community here.
Fantastic. Go ahead, Catherine.
Well, I'm based in DC, so at least at the moment there isn't a ton of cultural transition. And I guess it's pretty safe. But I will say that in terms of the one thing I do like about the Grameen Foundation is that I think each office sort of has its own different cultural feel. So DC is very different from Seattle, but then we all come together and work together because we use a lot of technology. And right now I'm collaborating with Sammy on a really cool project, and working with a bunch of other people who are in the field. And so because we use technology so much, we can sort of all come together. But yeah, I would say my experience so far has been really cool. I like DC; it's a great city, but and maybe some of the roles might be based in the U.S., but my experience, is, at least at the moment, is probably less applicable to the field.
Great. And Lisa?
So my work is based primarily in Accra, which is the capital city of Ghana, and it's pretty metropolitan here. Before I moved, all my family and friends were concerned about the risk of Ebola, but there is no Ebola in Ghana, and locally it's not really hyped up. People are not freaking out about it at all, and I'm fine. So it's, in terms of safety in general, it's relatively safe here, and it's okay to walk around at night, which was not the case when I lived in Nairobi, which maybe Rowan can talk about. There's petty crime here or there, but like in any large city, you just have to make sure you don't take any unnecessary risks, and to be aware of your surroundings and things like that. So safety has really been one of my concerns. In terms of expat life, it's pretty active, since I think Accra is one of the West African hubs. There's a lot of cultural events going on, and people like going to the beach, since we're right on the coast, and the weather is hot pretty much year-round. It's just hot and very hot, so yeah.
Nice. Patrizia, are you back? You might be frozen again to talk about your experience in Dubai. Nope, no Dubai today. Rowan, you want to go ahead and talk about Nairobi?
Yeah, so Nairobi is probably the least safe of this group of cities. Obviously, you can't walk around at night really anywhere. So there's a lot of taking taxis, and there's well-documented terror attacks in the last few years and stuff. But I mean, nothing's happened since I've been here. That being said, it's a very really fun city. It's like really it's probably like here in Johannesburg, the main hubs of Africa. So there's like lots of NGOs, lots of businesses, all the media houses. Everyone has if they have an African headquarters, it's either here or Johannesburg. So you meet a lot of really, really interesting people. And the whole town is very full of people trying to get stuff done, lots of entrepreneurs. There's a big social enterprise scene here. And obviously it's a huge startup hub, which is one of the reasons that we're based here. So there are some very nice things to say about Nairobi. Particularly, it's the people who you meet are really interesting.
Fantastic. And Patrizia, you may have rejoined. So you guys can't see this who are watching, but Patrizia sent a message on the question of Dubai and says the technology is great in Dubai. So a bit cheeky, but wonderful. So Patrizia, can you hear us? Are you able to reconnect in? Nope, the magical technology of Dubai. So we have about 9 minutes left in our session, and we had two other questions that were posted up there. So we'll try to get to both of them, but we might just, depending on the length of the answers, you might only get one. So really the question is, can you speak to the personal qualities that you think are the most important for success in these roles? So what has been your experience either personally or from interacting with other fellows that you really want those who are applying to this program to keep in mind? So what are the things that could really help them be successful as fellows? And this is helpful for them to either that they're considering applying for this, so whether or not those skills match kind of their personality, but also as they're writing their applications and people are kind of, putting their best foot forward, really what should they be emphasizing as kind of what they can bring to the table that would make them really strong candidates for the fellowship. So we'll start with Carol.
Sure. I would focus on three main points. The first is someone who is really independent thinking, who isn't afraid to kind of go out there and be proactive, would really help, because Grameen isn't a huge company, so it's a smaller organization, and especially within one office, there's so few people to do the work that every team member really needs to go out there and give it all their best shot. When issues come up, really kind of try different ideas to solve it, because you won't really be told exactly what to do. So being proactive is really important. The second is flexibility to sudden changes. Like I said, things happen all the time, especially with technology, with stakeholders, with weather delays. I mean, everything will happen that can happen. So being flexible is really important. And then the third one is teamwork, especially for anything to get done. It's really helpful, really crucial to have open communication with everyone that you're working with, including your clients, or including the researcher on the field, or the more communication you have, the better.
Great. Katherine? My answer is pretty similar to Carol's, and I imagine a lot of the same things will come through to people's answers. So I would say the three most important qualities that come to mind are one, open-mindedness, two, comfort with ambiguity, and three, proactivity, like Carol mentioned. And so, obviously, I think for someone to even contemplate switching sectors or moving to an entire new location, I think that indicates a certain amount of open-mindedness. But I think the other part is that depending on where you're coming from in the private sector, things may be done differently here. And I think a key step here is in the beginning to be open to that, and not to be a judger necessarily, but to be open and receptive and sort of understand before you go in and make change. But I think the great thing about Grameen is that people, I think we're very candid internally about where there's problems and where there's shortcomings, and I think the fellowship program is even evidence of that. So if you're open-minded, I think there's a lot of room for you to come in and make change. It's just a matter of how you go about doing that. In terms of comfort with ambiguity, I think some of the things like what Carol mentioned, things will change very quickly. But at least what I found too is that your role, depending on what sort of role you come into, my role that I came into, there was a broad outline for it, but it wasn't necessarily like defined down to I will be doing XYZ specific activities on XYZ day. I had to come in and, through a mutual exploration, I was able to shape what my role would look like with my managers. And I think that might be a common experience depending on people's roles. And personally, I like that. I love that. But I know some people might be less comfortable with something like that. And I do, and just knowing from other fellows, you might be brought in to do a specific project, but if that project rolls off, there might be a need somewhere else. And so I think people who are able to take advantage of opportunities and go with the flow to some extent, I think could be a really valuable asset. And finally, with the proactivity, I think that's related to what it takes to sort of make change in the organization. What I found is that Grameen, I personally have found it not to be bureaucratic at all, but at the same time, it is a nonprofit. There are realities. People are really busy. There's not always resources available, but I think I found that as long as you're willing, if you're persistent and you have clear ideas and you learn how to, create the right stakeholder buy-in and get the right set of people involved, people are really receptive to doing things in different ways. But again, you have to be proactive about it. People aren't necessarily going to come to you with that. There is the onus on you, but once you take that onus, I found that people are really receptive.
Great. Lisa?
So I think Carol and Catherine commented a lot on the professional qualities that you need to exhibit at work. So I think I'll comment a little bit more on the personal qualities. So I think having resilience and really passion for helping the poor and for the nonprofit world is really important, because I'll be honest, daily life in Accra has been much tougher than I expected. We experience power outages of 24 hours at a time, every other day, water outages, housing is really difficult to find, and issues there and in daily life. And so throughout the fellowship, I think it's probably natural to experience a lot of low moments that really test how committed you are to this experience and how well you deal with setbacks. But if you came into this with the the right reasons and that commitment, then I think that'll carry you through even the lowest moments. And also, I think the second point, being willing to just sort of put yourself out there, because I was the only fellow assigned to be in Ghana this year, so I had to sort of develop a social network here on my own. I could either sit at home by myself a lot, or go out and meet with people and experience the culture here and travel around. And I think you'll have a richer experience if you do the latter, and you'll have more balance in your fellowship. So I think leaving your comfort zone and embracing that discomfort feeling.
Fantastic. Patrizia?
I think that's my new name.
Go ahead, Rowan. And it's funny because we could hear her. Like, I saw her jump in when someone else was on. And oh, wait, you unmuted. Wait, let's see, Patrizia, can you hear us? Nope. You are the new Patrizia, Rowan. Go for it.
Okay, so for me, in my previous positions, relatively junior positions in various different companies and sectors, I always found it very frustrating that I wouldn't be allowed to pitch in and say, this is my ideas, and no one will really listen to me. And so the great thing about this fellowship is that absolutely people will listen to you. And so if you're frustrated by not being able to be creative or not being able to contribute because you're the junior person and they just want you to fix computers or whatever, that will not happen in the fellowship, or at least not in my experience. So maybe if you're frustrated like that, then that's a good personal quality to have.
Bring your tired, your frustrated, your resilient, your poverty-loving, and your dynamic as far as the ability to do 101 things and that open-mindedness. I think that's fantastic advice, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing all those candidates come in. We're at time. I want to thank everyone very much for kind of enduring connectivity issues and dropping on and off, but you guys have been a fantastic panel, really giving great insights and candidness into your experience, both personal and professional, and hopefully this really helps those who are considering applying really get a better scope of what it is that they're signing up for and what their experiences could be, which seems overall, really an adventure, really a chance to go outside of your comfort zone, try a bunch of new things, expand your skills, but also just expand your kind of world experience and things that you're exposed to. So thank you, panel. Thank you, viewers, for again enduring this some of the connectivity issues, and for your patience. You can watch this video. It's recorded on YouTube, so you can always come back and revisit and try to decode some of the tech issues. So thank you, everyone, and have a really great rest of your day. Applications are due on the 1st of March for the first round of the fellowship, so we look forward to seeing all your applications then. Bye, everybody.